All right, thank you very much. Well, let's ride on to our next story. Finally, of course, this week, the Supreme Court fixed October 22nd for the hearing of a suit filed by no fewer than 16 state governments challenging the constitutionality of the laws establishing the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, and 2 others. A 7-man panel of justices led by Justice Wani Abba-Aji fixed the date after the states were joined and co-plaintiffs, and leave was granted for the consolidation of the case in the suit originally filed by the Kogi state government through its Attorney General. The states that joined in the suit include Ondo, Edo, Oyo, Ogun, Nasarawa, Kebbi, Katsina, Sokoto, Jigawa, Enugu, Benue, Anambra, Plateau, Cross River, and Niger State. Of course, when the case was called, the lawyers representing the states made their submissions. Kogi State's Aegis Counsel Abdul Wahab Mohammed, SAN, informed the court that there were states indicating interest in consolidating the case and those seeking to be joined as co-plaintiffs. I still have with me here Chino Obiago, SAN, and of course Ibrahim Garba, a communications consultant. Now, Chino Obiago, quickly, 16 states asked the Supreme Court to declare EFCC unconstitutional, relying on the argument that the Constitution is the supreme law and any law that is inconsistent with it is a nullity. How do you react to this?
Well, the Supreme Court has dealt with these issues several times. When states, as far back as, 1997, 2004, 2005, in the Attorney General of Ondo State versus the Attorney General of Federation, where the same set of states, argue that EFCC, being a federal agency, has no power over state institutions. And the Supreme Court clearly stated in those cases that EFCC Act was enacted under the constitutional provision for good governance. And as far as that is concerned, the National Assembly has the power to make law for the entire country in respect to good governance. That is well settled. Now, this dust that's being raised again, of course, we all know it's from Kogi State because of Yahya Bello and Co. It's simply, repetition of what has happened before. And they're saying that Section 12 of the Constitution, according to what media, reports say, Section 12 of the Constitution says that if you want to domesticate an international treaty, then all the state houses of assembly must endorse it. And with due respect, I don't see that in Section 12 of the Constitution, because what it says is that if it's on a matter within the exclusive legislative list that National Assembly has powers to make law, the National Assembly can make law without having recourse to State House of Assembly. And that's what the National Assembly has done here in EFCC Act 2004. So we're waiting for the Supreme Court to hear the case on Tuesday, and I do hope that the Supreme Court will stand by its previous decisions on this point, and the EFCC cannot be said to be unconstitutional. The EFCC Act cannot be said to be unconstitutional, with all due respect. All right.
Ibrahim Garba, quickly, as it stands, they sustain the argument that the EFCC should be considered illegal based on how it was formed. My question now is, has the EFCC become a threat to their activities while in government to warrant this kind of move?
Well, Council has spoken a lot about it, but again, what I want to add here is the fact that why is it happening now? Okay? And we all know the case between Yahya Bello and the EFCC. And as I think a date has been set for the hearing for him to come and defend himself. And one area which is very conflicting for some of these governors is that of the NFIU, the role of the NFIU. They want it properly defined. Some of these governors are saying that the NFIU has no power, no jurisdiction to investigate them for any case, whatever. But again, if you look at the way it was, set up, the NFIU has the mandate to supervise and at the same time, check the abuses at the local level, at the local government level. And that is why I see it as a very difficult one for the governors. If you do a checklist, you find that some of these states, 16 you mentioned, how many of them came out to say, okay, yes, we're in support of this case that has been filed by the Attorney General of Kogi State. Most of them withdrew. Their major focus, or rather what they want to see being achieved is, this joint account, local government joint account. And of recent, you are aware that the governor of Anambra State equally came out with a pronouncement that through the State Assembly, lobbying, rather imposing himself on them, that, the laws, Section 7, Section 13, 14, 15, should be revisited, you understand, so that they could still maintain the joint account, of which I believe the Supreme Court issued a directive to that effect, that there is no compromise. Local government funding must be spent by the local government authorities. And thank God we're about to see, the election that will bring in the local government chairman, to which it will empower them to operate independently. That is what we want to see happen, because a lot of abuse have taken place. And the earlier we tackle these issues, the better. And I believe, just like Council mentioned, that, look, there is no way they can win this case at the Supreme Court. It has been decided at the Supreme Court that, yes, the autonomy of the local government remains sacrosanct.
Now, Mr. Chino Obiago, let me have you react to this quickly before we ride off this evening. Now, petitions that were gotten over 4,324. Now, the cases under scrutiny are 2,103, cases under arraignment 306, capture more than 2,000 properties, recuperated a few houses, extravagant auto, planes, of course, and oil tankers, estimation of advantages and monies gotten, and over $5 billion as well. Now, these are some of the gains since the institution was set up. Isn't this laudable, and why are we having this conversation with having governors going to contest something that seems like is yielding results? Just 30 seconds would do.
The EFCs have done well, just like my colleague has said.
Okay.
It's the local government fund that triggered all this, because of course, the eyes of EFCC will be on how states interfere with the financial autonomy that the Supreme Court has given to local government. And I think it is time that the state governments and state governors realize that there are three tiers of government in this country: the federal government, the state government, and local government.
Okay.
And local government autonomy must be guaranteed, because local government funds should not be slush funds for state governors. And that has come to stay. And there's no going back on that, because the Supreme Court has stamped its authority with a full court.
All right. Thank you very much. Of course, that's Mr. Chino Obiago, SAN, lawyer, who joined us from via Zoom. Thank you for having you this evening. And of course, Ibrahim Garba, communications consultant from our Abuja studios. It's indeed a pleasure having to have these discussions with both of you this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right. And that's our show for today. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our social media platforms at TVC News NG, or on our website at tvcnews.tv. I am Marco Tabo. Until next week.